Hey everybody, I got 4 maintenance tips for your tools and blades to ensure that you have successful projects in your furniture building, but more importantly, just improve the outcomes and the safety as you work in the workshop. So I want to make sure everybody has good confidence in how to maintain their tools and improve their outcomes. So let's have at it. First up, we have the miter saw. And out of the box, out of the factory, this is an old one, but you have a lot of features that's built into it. One being positive stops. This allows you to have repeatable cuts at certain angles, and more often than not, that's probably going to be accurate. But you want to do a validation test against that, and you have the ability to change those positive stops to ensure that you have a proper angle as you move it back and forth. The other positive stop is your bevel. This is where you can cut at specific angles, think like trim work and things of that nature. You want to get this dialed in so you have accurate cuts there. The next piece is, more often than not, you don't have a zero clearance throat plate there. This is really good to kind of prevent things like, one, falling through the cracks of your cuts, but more importantly, you don't have like shifting of the material as you set it on the table. This next one is dialing in your fence. Over time, I actually gained a lot of sawdust somehow underneath this. And I wanted to ensure that this is square, which I found out it wasn't. And blowing out that accumulated sawdust and getting it realigned and screwed to the correct angle, I was able to have a perfect 90-degree fence. Moving towards our table saw here, there's just a few tools that helps you measure this appropriately. The calipers is a little more scientific, but first thing here, I'm getting the fence dialed in here. It's actually off. Now this is just a construction table saw here, so it's kind of meant to be beat up quite a bit, and probably not for furniture making, but you can get it accurate here. This is a DeWalt table saw. What I'm doing here is just taking some offcut shims and placing it in there until I get a perfect 90 degree. Pretty simple. Over time this will probably fall out, but it's good to check every now and then. And it looks like we are dialed in. Lock that in place. Next thing you want to cut here is, well, not cut, you want to ensure that you have accurate measurements as you move your fence out left and right. I'm using the caliper here to get to a specific distance. Just have a squared up board here that I'm going to cut at 5.5 inches, and it looks like I am 1/64th off. Pretty close, but not bad for coming out of the factory. I haven't touched this in probably like 2 years, so getting it dialed in is now 5.5 inches. Next thing here is the same thing with the throat plate that you had on the miter saw. We do the same thing here for your table saw. And you've quite often that you're going to be putting material up against that, and it may dip in as you make your cuts. Getting that throat plate kind of dialed in, it allows you to have a nice flat reference surface. What I'm doing now is working on the positive stops for the table saw. There's 2. There's the 90 degree, and then there's a 45 degree. As you can see here, I am a little bit off. So taking some Allen wrenches here to adjust those appropriately, so that way I move back and forth and cut at a confident 90 degree or 45 degree. And this is pretty good in the sense of something to dial in, because let's say you got one edge jointed, and you come here and you want to cut that opposing edge to be parallel to the other one that you just referenced on the joiner. If the blade is off just a little bit, you'll start to see a bunch of circular cuts in the adjacent not parallel, but the actual cut, and that cleans it up a little bit, so you have to do less cleanup work on the parallel edge. Now moving into cleaning the table saw blade. Now you do miter saw any blade kind of essentially here. This is pretty simple. Just get any type of reservoir. You can use a tub. I just have a lid that's thick enough that I can just pour some hot water on. This is a kettle that I have for my highbrow coffee that I drink, and some baking soda, which I don't put in my coffee. I drop this in here, let it sit for a little bit. See those bubbles doing its whatever action scientific it's doing, and then come back in here with a wire brush, just very easily. You can probably even just take it out and just rub it off with a cloth or something like that, but I decided just to use a wire brush here. Look at that, brand spanking new. While that is drying, I'm moving over to the jointer. Now I have it's not kind of like a straight knife, but not helical. It's kind of a hybrid between. I think it's a cheap version of Rikon. Its approach of using the helical kind of style, but less carbide tips. And what you have on here is a little marker to show what side is being used. I can have 2 different cuts on this, so rotating them out allows me to prolong the need to sharpen these to ensure that I have a good clean cut. So I'm making that transition there and then just squaring up my fence as well. Coming over to one of the last components of the major milling tools I have here that I use on a daily basis is my planer. And this is a DeWalt planer. Most hobbyists have probably this in their workshop, and it comes with replaceable blades. You do have an opposing side, but you could actually sharpen these fairly easy. So I have some diamond plated stones here, and I have cut out a 45-degree angle because that's the angle of the second bevel on these blades. And I'm just taking a light pass on this. I'll do about 3 on each grit, and you will see here in a second that it has a nice fresh edge to it. Nice and clean. Very simple. Took like 2 minutes. And then once you get that edge done, you'll come back and clean off the back side of it, so that way you get the burr taken off it, and it is razor sharp. Now I will do this on the 3 blades, and they are good to go for another, who knows, another year, depending on how heavy you use your shop. And that, folks, is the bulk of the maintenance that I probably do on an annual basis, so I appreciate it. See you next one.